philosophy. And cycles tells us about some of those things, and are fascinating things too.
Well, so this is the graph of the number of Canadian lynx that have been caught each year from 1740 through the 1960s. Quite clearly there's a very real cycle going on. It's 9.6 years, no doubt it's real.
So we have a regular 9.6 year cycle in the abundance of Canadian lynx. That's a slightly mysterious sort of a thing on its own. Why do they go up and down? It turns out that rapid abundance also goes up and down on the same cycle, and the natural explanation of this has been to call it a predator-prey cycle, that the lynxes eat too many rabbits and kill them off and then die off themselves, and then eventually the rabbits recover and so on. However, this doesn't explain why coyote abundance, fisher abundance, marten abundance, mink abundance, muskrat abundance and other wildlife in Canada all follow the same cycle. Not only that, salmon catches in Canada and salmon abundance in England follows the cycle as well. Again, grouse abundance, hawk abundance, owl abundance and partridge abundance in Canada and the US. Tent caterpillars, chinch bug abundance, tick abundance, all these things move on the same 9.6 to 9 2/3 year cycle. Again, it shows up on tree ringwood in Arizona. I'm pretty sure that neither the lynx nor the rabbit are eating the trees, or doing things to the trees that are going to cause the ringwoods to vary. It's much more likely that this is a climatic thing that's somehow showing up and is affecting all these things. It affects the 9.6 year cycle shows up in wheat acreage, ozone content in the atmosphere, which again shows it's some sort of weather or cosmic type of thing, precipitation worldwide, storm track shifts, magnetic values, the runoff of some rivers, disease incidence from the human heart, and various other things. It shows up again in the war battles, cotton prices and finance crisis. So we have this very strong 9.6 year cycle showing in many different things. Something is going on. The second important thing, after the specific cycles with many things having the same period of cycle, and Dewey found a lot of these different cycles. We've just studied there the 9.6 year cycle, but there are many other cycles with particular periods where many different things, just like that big list I gave, many different things are found to have that same period of cycle in them. And the thing about them is that they all have constancy of period, the same period found in all the different things. On occasion, one or two variables may wander off a little bit, go a little bit random for a while, not showing the particular cycle that they are supposed to have in them. But one thing that does happen is later on they will return in phase with the original cycle. So they wander off, but they come back. It's as if they are being driven by something like a radio wave, and they wandered off for a while, but they came back and got in step again. Some other tests are that the things persist through change conditions. I often hear people explaining events, which I see as being caused by cycles, as being caused by particular things that politicians did, or particular things, social things that happened, and so on. But in actual fact, if we continue to look at things, we find that those things are just stories people tell, that the events of the cycles actually continue right through these things. And not only that, they persist after they're discovered. So if it's a real cycle, it must persist after it's discovered. If we find a cycle that's there 3 or 4 times, and then we say, well, there's a cycle, but then we look and it doesn't happen again, quite clearly it's not a real cycle. A proper cycle will satisfy a good mathematical test, and that test can be done to break the historical period into multiple parts and to have a look to see whether the phase of the cycle remains constant throughout the different periods. If it does, then this is called a Bartel's test. It can show quite clearly this cycle has, if a cycle has a 20% chance of occurring just randomly, we wouldn't take it very seriously. If it has a 1% chance, we'd certainly take it seriously. If it has a 0.001% chance of occurring randomly, then we can say this is a very real thing that's going on. When all the different cycles that have been found in different things are taken together, it's found that there are great bunches of cycles with certain periods. These particular cycles are considered to be very real. They exist through many things. The many things tend to move together, up and down together. and so these ones are regarded as real cycles. Furthermore, there are families of cycles. So we discovered that there may be one cycle. Dewey had one at 4.44 years, but he found another one at 8.88 years, exactly double that, and also at 2.22, and again at 17.75 years, double the 8.88, and at 35.5 years, double that. So there were often many cycles that were exactly double of other cycles, and also cycles that were exactly triple. If we take a third of the 17.75 years, you got 5.92 years, another common cycle, and a third of that or a half of that gave further cycles. So there was this whole pattern of divisions by 2 and 3 of common cycles periods. Not every period that was found fitted this pattern, but a big proportion of them did. The other thing to mention about that is these proportions of 2 and 3 are exactly the same proportions that occur in music. The relationship between notes that commonly sound good together. All of those are in these proportions of 2 and 3 also. This is Dewey's table of common cycles periods. Starting from 17.75 years, he multiplied by 2 or divided by 2 in one direction, and multiplied by 3 and divided by 3 in the other direction, and produced this table of periods of common cycles in years. It's worth mentioning that before I ever heard of Edward Dewey, I began to find similar structure to what he'd found. I found 4 particular cycles which I put their period as 4.45 years, 5.9 years, 7.15 years, and about 8.9 years. And I found they were all fractions of 35.6 years. When I found Dewey's table, by this time Dewey had died when I found out about his work and went to the Foundation for the Study of Cycles. Here was this figure of 35.5 years in his table, and he had 4.44 years where I had 4.45 years, but excellent agreement altogether. So to summarise then, there's something going on. Every known branch of science, economics, all these different areas of business and so on, Dewey said cycles have been found. He lists hundreds of different branches of science and some well into the thousands of different cycles that have been reported in different things. Many of discoveries by himself, but also by other people reporting similar findings. It's clear something's going on. This is well established. It's not well known, but it's very well established. There are many people who have had to independently discover this for themselves, just as I did after Dewey, because I didn't know about his work. So by putting this on YouTube, I can make it clear other people can begin to build on this and know about this. And there have been 2 or 3 other people who have independently found these same things. So this is the great mystery of cycles. I'll do further talks which will expand on parts of that and also begin to explain why this might be happening.